Now, the mayor talked about that. I forget where you set in, but he said it was just at MRC.
Yeah, so where did we set it? We set it just below the High Street Dam.
Okay.
And so the mayor has resisted efforts to take out the High Street Dam.
Right, and I thought that was it.
Because he likes the view. He did like the view. Jeff, Dr. Bird told me that. And so I think we've got him convinced that this is a good thing for the cleanliness of the river. So we'll see. But I learned a lot. I did. Yeah. So we got down to West Side Park, where that huge culvert is, massive. And so Phil Tevis tells me that this is our one storm sewage water that we need to separate. And so I'm standing there and I go, so what's the E. coli level supposed to be? He said, well, safe is 250, right? And I said, so what does it take? It's under 250. I said, what is it when it's at its worst? And he said, on a big rain, 600,000. Wow. I go, oh my God. I start looking for open sores on my leg. I said, what do you say we get out of the water? What do you say we haul these rafts over to the side and talk?
And not that he would ever achieve it, John Braddock was trying to achieve water put in the river. He did.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. I was so proud of the city I think everybody should take that trip.
Yeah. He's just, what he's done is so.
And the water is really, because it's a rocky bottom, was really pretty clear most of the time. It was well worth my time.
It was so disgusting when I was a kid. I mean, you can't even. They did a project that was conservation. We took pictures of smell and multiple levels of everything.
How are you? Good.
So Keith's out tonight.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
I know we all complain about
It's Japanese buyers.
That's where I was.
That's right.
You just do what you need to do. We're good.
There's still some neighborhoods around.
So you see our new for our athletic director, assistant athletic director. You'll want to call her up.
Clear for me, thanks, sorry.
Is it Jalen?
We'll call ourselves to order. Welcome, everyone. Join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. Dr. O'Neill is out of town today, so Mr. Heater?
Present.
Dr. Bales? Mrs. Barnes-Griffin? Mr. Irvin?
Present.
Mr. Lowe?
Present.
Okay, thank you all. We are on to our CEO's report.
So I have a little bit of a report tonight, so get ready here. I first wanted to announce that Ball State University, in collaboration with Muncie Community Schools, received a federal grant for $1.3 million, and it's a civics education. I know Eric Grimm today was meeting with social studies teachers, and so this will be work over the next several years that we'll be able to really work on. We have new civic standards that need to be taught in 6th grade, so that will be a great opportunity for collaboration with that, along with civics education in all of our grade levels. We also just received the official award notification from the George and Frances Ball Foundation for $777,000 for our high school CAN work with the goal of increasing our high school graduation rate. So we're excited about that. They also are going to fund some folks that will help us with data. Brittany will love this. She's been asking for this ever since she started on the board, right, Brittany? And this will be able to help us dig deeper with some of ours, but then also for each of the cans from early childhood all the way up to post-secondary, being able to look at the work that's being done by community groups and seeing what kind of impact that's having with students in our schools. So we're grateful for that. I also wanted to give a shout out to Kyle Paddock, our football coach. We had our first home game on Friday night, Paget. What did I say? Paget. We had our first home game on Friday night, and I'll tell you what, I was just so impressed with Kyle and with our team. I love to see the big crowd. We had lots of fans that were there. I still heard Dia, even though we had a lot of fans. She never lets us down. But it was great. Our team was very competitive. Not only is he doing things to prepare them for the field, but the things that he's doing outside throughout, practices and time after school as well. So for example, he took all the kids into the band room, had the kids practice the fight song and made sure all the players knew the fight song and could sing it. And I think that was fabulous. It was a good way for them to build school spirit with each other. So I wanted to give a shout out to him. I know that today we're going to have Dia's going to have a proposal for substitutes, but I still wanted just to mention that we are in desperate need of substitutes. It's August. We don't have that many teachers taking time off, but yet we still are not able to cover all of our classes. And then we have to pull people from other assignments to cover classes. And so I know Ball State tries to help us spread word with students, but we could use people in the community as well. And with that, you guys approved our new employee handbook I don't even remember, Dia, in June. And so in that handbook, we were trying to address the lack of subs, especially before and after breaks. So we heard back from some of our teachers that they understand why we need that, but some of them had already booked cruises or had airline tickets. Often they do that ahead of time. So we are going to create a waiver process for this year only where a teacher can send an email where it showed they had flights or they had something booked, and then this year we'll accommodate them. Hope we don't have too many because we know we'll still have a sub issue, but we want to be fair with people with giving them enough notice. Today we had our first early release. I know there was a lot of professional development going on. I wanted to point out that Dia provided PD with our security officers. And so how did that go, Dia? Pretty good?
It went very well.
Great, thank you. And then lastly, mark your calendars. Not lastly, I have two more things. Seconded. Mark your calendar for October 7th. That's a Friday. The CEC is going to be holding their annual golf outing. $300 per team. It's a Friday before we then have our fall break. And so if any of you are able to get teams or participate, that would be great. And then there was an advisory put out today by the Indiana Department of Education, and there are several schools that are going to partner with a math and reading tutoring grant program, and Muncie is one of those schools. And so tomorrow I will be joining for the press release the IPS superintendent, Decatur Township School superintendent, Muncie Community Schools, and then Purdue Polytechnic. We will be the ones that will spearhead this opportunity, and then more schools will follow. So that's about all I can give you right now, but stay tuned, and that announcement will be coming with more details on Wednesday. That's it.
Okay, Any questions for Dr. K?
One is the $777,000, what other than employees for data collection or?
That is going to fund 2 of our security officers. That is going to have a student assistance coordinator at the high school to help us as we're trying to address attendance, or we sometimes call it an on-track coordinator also. It's also, we're going to survey students to see what type of incentives would help them increase attendance. And so it will give us some funding to be able to do some creative things for our students. And I believe that adds up to that. And then the grant, the data team, that will be in place for 3 years because they know, if we're going to develop a dashboard and really dig in and put systems in place. So that is 3 years worth of funding.
One more question I have for you. What's with the construction and remodeling that's happening at Southview and Westview? Where are we at?
Yeah, so EWA went through this all last year, and we're close to being able to say that project is finished. They're doing all the last minute touches that had not been finished up, and at EWA they still some cabinetry in the kindergarten and the first grade class, or pre-K and kindergarten, they still have to get that in. With Southview, we're using the same approach we did at East Washington Academy. And so throughout the construction, they create makeshift classrooms because there's room in the schools where they can move teachers and maneuver them around. So Southview's, the biggest portion of it happened over the summer. So that was at the front entrance where they had to do major work. Now they'll move a teacher into one of the extra classrooms that's in the school, get the walls built, and then move them back in. And throughout the entire school year, they'll keep working on that process. Westview's a little bit different story because we're not remodeling any of the existing school because they already have walls and they're all set. They needed more space, so we're adding a wing. And so we couldn't really do the makeshift classrooms at Westview because they don't have any extra room at all. As a matter of fact, we had to make sure they didn't have people on carts this year traveling to classrooms. So they ended up getting some portables, and those were delivered, and so we were able to increase enrollment at Westview this year because we knew that we were going to be adding extra classrooms. So we said, why wait until they're added? With those portables as they're doing work, we were able to increase some of the attendance there. So just like if anyone has done any kind of home improvement, when it's going on, it's a little bit messy and you think, oh my gosh, why am I eating in my living room instead of the kitchen? But when you're finished, you think, wow, this was worth it. EWA's feeling like it was worth it. They were troopers. They were really good sports about having to move classrooms multiple times and getting ready. And I know Southview and Westview are following in the same way.
So if we get a hold of Brad, can we have a walkthrough? See the finished product? Yeah, good.
What's the tenor at our schools at the start of the year?
I believe that we are seeing, it's been a great start to the school year. We've all been in buildings frequently, and teachers are upbeat, students are upbeat. Things look good, which I really don't want you to ask me that because that means tomorrow something will happen.
Well, everybody else in buildings seeing the same thing?
I just see the good. I don't, I just see what's happening.
Okay.
In north side, south side.
Is there anything generally you need from the board as we work towards mid-September and count day?
just if you keep encouraging, if anybody wants to select a school, Muncie Community Schools is a great place to receive an education. Our count, we early on, I said, oh, it looked like we were down a little bit, but every week looks a little bit better. And so Chuck gave me some numbers today, and once again, I'm not going to say them because I could get disappointed again, but it looks like we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, well, when Dr. K first started, we had been through one full year, I guess, with Steve Edwards, and that we went through this process. And I said, Muncie has a little different tradition. We tend to trickle in, and I have not figured that out. I honestly, I don't have an answer for it, but it has been consistent year to year. Is that what you have witnessed?
Yes. Are there any intentional, is there anything that you all do intentionally, or you call them?
Oh, yeah. So we're calling families, we're doing home visits, we are, sending postcards, we're having, our administrators and teachers are talking to kids who knew other kids to try to find out where they went. It's all hands on deck trying to find students who what we call our no-shows. They were here last year and other schools haven't picked them up yet, and so we're trying to figure out where they are.
So in the 50s and early 60s, politicians would rent station wagons with speakers on top. So we've got a station wagon driving through neighborhoods with Dia saying, come out, come out.
Yes, we ring the bell. Come on.
It's the Pied Piper of bringing the kids back to school. It baffles me. Because we're talking about not 5 or 10, we're talking about 300 to 400. That seems to be a consistent number, and now that's from the standpoint of education, that's a challenge. So
Demographic?
No rhyme or reason. All I know, the first run we did, I lose sleep, and Jim's like, Leanne, they'll come, and then he's right.
It's
So
kind
then
of
I'm
like,
like, why did I lose sleep over that?
yeah, it's like Field of Dreams here. Our own Field of Dreams going. So with that digression,
Jim, just a quick
Go ahead.
question. How are the home visits received? Are people glad to see people from the schools, or hesitant or resistant, or how does that go usually?
Well, I would say that's probably mixed. So sometimes people are very appreciative, and, that's where we're trying to not have the first visit be a visit where it has to be some kind of bad news.
Sure.
So we're trying to build those relationships before that happens. But when we go out and try to find folks, some will say, oh, I didn't realize it's time to start up again, or would give the reason why they hadn't been in school, and would say they'll be there. And then others, some may not open the door, and others don't want to be bothered. So it's mixed.
Yeah, does it ever help if you meet with them? Do you ever find that some of them that you visit then become involved as parents?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I wondered about that. That's interesting. Because that would be kind of impressive to have someone from the school come to your door, I think,
Yes.
for a good reason.
So we have both our family navigators and our student assistance coordinators. Part of their role is to build those relationships with students and their families.
Very good.
okay, anything further for Dr. K? Okay, Mr. Yenser, you're up.
Rick Yenser, newsman, author, business here in Muncie. I'll be brief. Again, I want the board to know that there are many that are opposed to any restriction in free speech in this meeting or in public education. is guaranteed by the Constitution. The states, the locals can do whatever they want, and a 2-minute limit and a day before form is restricted. We think that the school board should make sure that everybody is heard, especially parents and taxpayers, even though they don't show up here. And speaking of taxes too, I said earlier that we don't want to see a tax increase. I found out since that meeting that we've got hundreds that are stealing their taxes because schools and government have gone on a rampage, spending money they don't have, and borrowing money for everything from utilities to, I think here, a stadium, and even to throw money at private development, which I'm still wondering why we do that. And two, I mentioned to the superintendent, I read something and talked to other school corporations. I've got family that runs a couple here in Indiana, that they were concerned about the Irish scores, and the average was in the middle 60s for a lot of school corporations. That means like 1 in 3 third graders can't read. So I'm glad to see there's mentor programs, there's after school programs, and you're trying to get more people involved in this, because if they can't read, you know, I thought that's what public education is about. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mr. Inser. The issue of literacy has been foremost on our minds for, well, 4 years since we started. And I think the state, certainly by virtue of the announcement last week with Lilly and that public-private partnership, has clearly recognized the urgency of that issue. So thank you for raising that with us. We will move on to the consent agenda. So some exciting news tonight. I want to highlight a couple of things. We're first going to call up Mr. Holloway. You awake back there, Jeff? And you have some exciting news for us.
Well, good evening, everybody. I do. I'll be brief. And not just because I want to run out of here. I got to meet with George Foley in the Parks Department here in a little bit so we can get some games at the new Lafferty Field.
Absolutely.
It's amazing right now. So get there and talk about that. But I'm excited to be here to introduce, Jayla Scaife. And, you know, selfishly, like I've known her for a long time, longer than I don't want to embarrass her. But I'm proud to have her back. When I was here before teaching and coaching, she was a student, and she won't talk about this, but the only Indiana All-Star in the history of our school. Again, she's humble. She won't talk about it. Went on to have an amazing career at Dayton and was coaching college basketball and wanted to come back here where she's from and be a part of this. So she's going to be our girls basketball coach and serve as the assistant athletic director. She's happy to be back, and I'm excited to get her here and get going and welcome her back to Muncie. So Jayla,
come on up
here. I will say this before she gets up here. She talks a lot more than she used to, but she's still a person of few words. So here's Jayla.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back, and just based off of what you said about the football game and what they're doing with their culture, that's what I'm looking to do with our girls basketball and middle school and elementary school teams as well. So excited to be back and excited to get to work.
Well, we are extremely excited to have you.
Thank you.
So when I got a call a couple weeks ago that said Mr. Holloway had identified someone, I leapt out of my chair, and I don't leap out of my chair very often because my leaping days are behind me. So welcome, congratulations, and we could not be more pleased. So Mr. Holloway, thank you. So anybody have any questions for Ms. Scaife? They have important things they need to tend to, because I want you to have ball games at that field too. In fact, I think we should have more than anybody else. So anything further for us?
You got let off the hook. You didn't ask her too many questions, but we'll we'll ease her in.
Well, you had cautioned me. And she doesn't have your quiet nature, but yeah. Anything you need, let us know.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
As Jeff is walking out, I mean, I am just so impressed as I watch him when I go to athletic events. Jeff is all over the place. He's hard to follow because he's up in the stands talking with parents. He's out on the field cheering with the cheerleaders. He's talking with kids. He just does a remarkable job, and I'm just so glad that he's in Muncie and he makes us all better. So good job, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. And then we are happy and pleased to talk about support staff compensation. Who wants to introduce that? Mr. Heater? Okay. If you will address the issue of support staff compensation.
I will. We had an opportunity to meet as a compensation committee like we have done over the last several years, starting with teachers, as we know, in the spring, continuing with support staff, and then ultimately addressing administration. So this is the second step for this coming year. What you see in the packet is a recommendation of a total of estimated $279,000 of increased salaries. And those increases clearly reflect the critical nature of those positions in helping us create an environment of excellence. The importance of those support staff. I think if we talk to any teacher, they'll tell you that a quality support staff is invaluable to their ability to teach. But there's also all of those things that go on that require schools to run that are included in this proposal. It also reflects the market. It has become, as we all know, more difficult to hire people at this stage. And the administration's request to us through this recommendation believes that it will make us much more competitive in those positions. The other thing we hope it will help us retain some of those folks that we have. I think we had definitely some discussion about, the turnover we have in some of these positions really hurts. And we've started to see the benefit of slowing turnover down in the teaching staff. And I think, we think that this will start, or at least continue to help that. So with that, the recommendations in the packet, Mr. President, and I would move that we approve, or we're going to do that in the consent agenda, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Heater?
Yeah, Dave, you referred to this as step 2. Is there anybody else that we're looking at?
The step 3 will be administration.
Administration.
So we do it in 3 waves. We do that after count days, so we have a little better idea of exactly what we expect.
And we're also going to bring ECAs also, so that will
Yeah.
probably be next.
Okay.
That's
And
right.
then, because once you do
Those are
ECAs.
extracurricular
Yes.
folks, just for clarification.
And
coaches
extracurricular activities isn't something that's brought on a yearly basis. Usually it's every few years or so, typically with districts.
So in about 4 weeks from now, we will have addressed compensation
Right.
across the board. Good. Thank you.
So want to just take a moment and see if we have any other certified or staff or anybody else certified or staff who is just joining us at MCS. I don't see anybody. Well, in any event, welcome. We have 4 certified staff members, and then it looks like about a dozen recommendations for support. I want to take a moment and recognize Ellen Nolan, the master teacher at Grissom, who is moving on, and thank her for her service to Muncie Community Schools. I don't see anything else. And donations, want to again thank on behalf of the board all of those generous donors in the community who give regularly to MCS, and specifically Panther Pantry had, I think, about $11,700 in donations since the last reporting period, and that's a significant benefit to our students and families. So thank you to all of you who have donated to the MCS family. With that, any additional questions concerning the consent agenda? Okay, would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Then Mr. Irvin's moved. Second, Mrs. Barnes Griffin. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so we were on to Dr. Bell on an effort to secure some additional assistance in our schools.
Good evening, President Williams, board members, Dr. Kwiatkowski. We would like to ask that you accept the motion tonight to adopt the adjunct teacher permit and adjunct teacher employment agreement. And as of July 1st, 2022, the Indiana General Assembly has come out with an option for school boards to fill vacant teaching positions, consider new programs, a new class that's been added, or even supplement current programs by adding adjunct teachers to hire. Adjunct teacher permit will be approved by a school board, not IDOE, and it's for those that have 4 years of experience in their field that do not hold a teacher's license. Adjunct teacher permit would need to be renewed yearly. And so for an example, we have someone that has 4 years of experience or more teaching English learners, and so not maintaining a teacher's license, an Indiana state teacher's license, but do have the credentials to teach those, that population. That would be a situation where we would have that person apply for an adjunct teacher permit.
And then do we have to subsequently, does that have a shelf life to it?
1 year.
1 year?
1 year.
Okay,
And then you can renew yearly.
okay.
And that person, the adjunct teachers also have to have a mentor assigned to them. And so Kelsey Palvalka, who's our Director of English Learners, will be the one who will serve as their mentors.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Bell?
Just curious, how many of these will we have?
Right now, we are recommending 2 for tonight.
Okay.
Right now, I don't see a need for any right now, but
Okay.
as time goes on,
So that, well, we don't have 20 of these folks out there. I mean, okay.
And for these positions, then would you, after you get through an academic year, post for a teacher, or you'd continue with the same contract with the adjunct?
we have to post the position.
You continue to post. If you can't fill it, it's adjunct.
But if they're doing a great job, we would want to continue with them.
That's-
So
that's
the
what I
two
wanted to
that
hear.
we've hired speak multiple languages and have worked with our students and have done a great job instructing them. And so, you know, yes, we always want teachers first, but if we find someone who's doing a great job, we wouldn't want them to be afraid that we wouldn't maintain them.
And I probably should have asked it differently. There's no requirement that you have to. You find somebody that's good, as you pointed out. Let's stay with what's working. Okay,
Right, but part of
good.
the requirement is that we do post it as an adjunct teacher position.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
So, sure.
Do they have to go through any kind of evaluation like other teachers? I know you said they had a mentor, but would they be evaluated?
Yeah, so they're going to be evaluated, and we'll use the same evaluation tool, even though they are not going to be eligible for the teacher appreciation grant. They also aren't in the teacher retirement fund, but they are in the PERF fund.
Okay.
I actually had a question about evaluation, but that's answered it. And I love that they have to have those 4 years of experience. Do they also have to have some level of education to support that, or whether it's in the field or not?
The 2 that we are recommending tonight, one has taught at the university level, and then the other one has worked with adults as well.
Okay. In addition to that experience, though, are they required to have any sort of degree? Is it just based on experience?
They have to have a degree in their field of study.
Okay, just not the license.
So that's Muncie, that's what we're asking,
Okay,
but
that's what I wanted to
the
clarify.
adjunct teacher that has been put by in the statute,
They don't.
the only
require
requirement is they have to have 4 years in that field.
Got it, but we're asking them.
But we have higher expectations
Got it.
than that.
That's what I
yeah.
wanted to clarify.
Well,
Thank you.
both of these individuals have advanced degrees. I don't know Safwan, but I know Sadiq. And he's a lawyer, so he's got to be good at something.
Could you define what that is? Can you define what that is?
I don't know yet.
You know
I'm
when you
still
see it.
working on it. Why don't you ask Mark? He can fill you in.
And Safwan worked at Ball State University for a number of years and taught international students English. And so they both come to us with a lot of experiences.
Yeah, these are both highly qualified hires. So, and my understanding is, under the statute, we're approving these, and we're approving the concept generally and moving forward with the statute, but we're approving these two specifically for this coming academic year. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
So you really are, instead of the DOE issuing a license, you're giving them the license to work in our schools.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, and then the next issue is one that we had emailed about a few days ago, Dr. Bell. So tell us where you are on that one.
So it's no secret that across our country, schools are struggling with qualified teachers and hires and substitutes. You heard Dr. Witkowski say earlier, anyone out there that's wanting to sub. And so this next recommendation is to increase the pay of retired teachers that have maintained their teacher's license and to double their sub pay. So master's teachers with a master's degree, sub pay would be $105 a day. We are proposing that they receive $210 a day if they maintain a master's degree, along with their maintaining their Indiana teaching license. And then the same thing, we have those that have a doctorate in education would also receive a double in their daily rate as a sub to $210.
Okay.
That is just the way that we've had some very highly qualified teachers that have retired because of time in their life or at the age, but after being out, a couple months, 1 month, a year, would like to maybe come back and sub for us. And so a way to attract them would be to do double that pay, $210 a day.
So let me ask this, on maintaining a license, how many retired educators maintain their teaching license? What percentage?
I would say higher in the 70 or 80s. I had a conversation with the person that's currently working and talked about, he's at retirement age, but what he would do when they retire. Once they professionalize their license, it's good for 10 years. We have Human Resource Department is actually working with the teacher that just retired last school year, did not renew their teaching license, but is interested. And so going back to professional development, because we put in the professional growth points in Elvis, and once we can confirm that those points were earned through our early release PD or conferences or taking classes, then that license can be renewed.
So would you come over here and be very upset with me if I suggested we not require a license in order to sub?
Not very upset, but I think it does attract a particular audience and those that are just recently retired. Once you professionalize your license, it's good for 10 years. And so that we get it out, work with Andy, get it out in the news, then that may, because it really isn't, once you have a license, it's really not hard to maintain your license as long as you put in your professional growth points.
So what if we left that to the administration's discretion as to whether or not to require a license in order to qualify? Because I don't want to see your numbers fall off for that reason.
I'd like that.
That would be great.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my licensure requirement with the State Bar Association, it drives me up a wall. I mean, it's a way to keep perpetuating the organization, but it's kind of a headache. Now, in the motion itself, Indiana teaching license and those individuals have a doctorate. What I heard was a master's or a doctorate.
Yeah, so there may be some that have taught in higher ed with a doctorate in education, but did not get an original teaching license because they were working in adult, upper secondary courses like teacher at Ball State or at Anderson University or at Butler, but did not ever get their teaching license. These individuals with a doctorate in education would also get a double in their rate because they've been teachers.
Oh, I see what you're
It's
saying.
right, it's two
different
different
things.
types of folks. Some have been teachers, they've retired, and we want to bring them back. Some have been at higher ed in the teaching teachers, and, you know, they sub in our schools, and we want to be fair to them as well.
Okay. So would you mind if I took a shot at stating this motion?
Sure.
And so if anybody else wants to play with it, let me know. I would move that we increase substitute pay for retired teachers and or retired individuals with doctorates in education who worked and taught in higher ed, and that we would double their daily substitute rate from $105 to $210 a day, and that we would leave to the discretion of administration the requirement of licensure in order to qualify in specific cases. That we would also leave to the discretion of the administration for long-term subbing. Would that be a different rate, or would it be under this rate?
So we would have this rate for long-term subs with these type of folks.
And that we leave to the discretion of administration on the issue of long-term subbing, the participation in particular professional development in order to maintain their qualifications for the purpose of undertaking that long-term arrangement. Is that okay? That's the motion. Okay. Any additional changes or questions? So this is an important issue across the state, and Dr. Kay and Dr. Bell brought this idea to me about 2 weeks ago, and I think it's really has potential. So I'm hopeful that we're able to entice some individuals who want to make a little bit of money every week to join us. So we'll be doubling the pay for those individuals from $105 a day to $210 a day. So with that, the motion has been called and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bell, for bringing that to us. We are on to, I believe, a financial report. Is that right?
That's correct.
So, Mr. Jerome, are you ready to
Yes.
roll?
Yeah, included in your board packet is our monthly update for the month of July. 7 months of results here for our calendar year. We did receive our state basic grant of $3.6 million, on target to receive about $42.5 million of state basic grant this year. That'll be up or down. That'll be revised based on our September count. That'll be reconciled at the state level in that October to November timeframe. So we're still happy to report, still receiving the state basic grant on time. Overall cash balance in the checkbook for all funds, still a little over $36 million. Very large balance at the end of July, so that is still holding very true. Still expecting to be in the positive surplus position for the education fund as well. Also at the end of this year, forecasted to be over probably a little over $17 million in that particular fund, and that's once again a surplus of probably over $3 million for the education fund this year. And we're continue to pay back our state loan at the tune of $50,000 a month. That's now down to $10.7 million. And I know we just finished a lot of our budget analysis over the last couple meetings. Just one thing to report on the operation fund on spending. That's still a tight fund. We're still only about 3.9 million to go in spending over the remaining 5 months. So we're watching that very closely to not spend over the 12.6 million for that particular fund for this particular year. And I just always include some of those charts and graphs for you just to show you the balance of the overall checkbook and just to show you how that has trended up over the last 3.5 years. So that is really all that I have for your monthly report, unless you have any other questions.
Any questions for Mr. Jerome? Hearing none, a motion to approve the financial report?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Show it passed. Budget hearing.
Thank you. This is the time of the board meeting. We have what's called our public hearing on the 2023 budget, bus replacement plan and capital project plan. 2 weeks ago, we had our permission to advertise where we advertised then subsequently the Form 3, the capital project plan, as well as the bus replacement plan. And we advertised a budget of a little over 58.4 million for the 2023 budget. You include the rainy day fund in that, that makes a little over 61 million. And at this point, that's when yourself, the chair, can ask if there's any public comment at this time.
Yes, so we will call to order pursuant to the applicable statutes the annual budget hearing for purposes of commentary on this year's, is it 2022, 2023?
2023, right.
Muncie Community Schools budget. Is there anybody here who wishes to be heard on the Muncie Community Schools budget as published? Anybody at all? Anyone wish to be heard on the issue of the 2022-23 budget? One more time. Anybody wish to be heard? So, going back a ways and quoting Judge Caldemeyer, having been thrice called, the issue is closed. Okay. So,
that concludes the public hearing.
Concludes the public hearing. So thank you, Mr. Jerome, for all the work that you're doing. We are on to board policy review. Who's helping us tonight with board policy review and the scintillating nature of the section 504 of the APA?
Well, I will go ahead and, so the first policy review, section 504, we had to name a person and that person is Jenny Smithson, so the only change to that was having her name added.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Okay, so that passes. Displaying student work, second read, adoption, and the timing on this is appropriate in light of the article I sent all of you earlier today. So, any questions? You want to go ahead and introduce that? I mean, I think everybody's seen it.
I think last board meeting, we discussed each of these.
Okay. Anybody have any additional questions regarding that issue, which other corporations are unfortunately wrestling with now? Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay. Got a motion, I'll second it. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have the public participation policy, which I assume we had some public comment on this evening. That has been vetted by council. Any questions or requested modifications or changes to that policy as it's presented? Okay, would entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Okay, we'll call Mrs. Barnes Griffin the motion. We'll call Mr. Irvin the second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that passes. Let's go ahead and, if we can, Mr. Klotz, highlight the last of those policies someplace on our website regarding, so it's generally available, and perhaps maybe a posting period at either the board or next to the sign-in sheet. Okay. Dialogue of board and future recommendations. The only thing I would say is I had two things. One, I had a very nice meeting with representatives of the Community Engagement Council last Friday. We spent about an hour together. I'm encouraged by that organization and what's happening. And then secondly, before this meeting, I mentioned to a few of you, I have received inquiries from folks at the state regarding a potential transition from a distress status and Gary Community Schools, looking at July 1st of 2024 as a potential transition date. And the state is, representatives of the state have reached out and are interested in a complementary way on the work that has occurred in Muncie over the last 4 years as they attempt to replicate something similar up in Gary. So you may have individuals who reach out to you from DUAB, which is the Distressed Unit Appeal Board, or DOE, and I assured them that we would all be as helpful as possible in communicating whatever we've learned over these past few years. So that's all I have this evening. Does anybody else have anything else?
I have a question. We're talking about the Panther Pantry. So there's this, something about a bus. There is stuff in a bus.
Oh, yes, we're gonna stuff a bus. Now I'm forgetting, for one of our bus, Auxilio's taking a bus to Payless. Do you know what, we'll have to have Andy look up that date again. So it's going to be, and then they'll share between,
All-State Cardinal Pantry and
the soup, and then the soup kitchen.
yes.
The three will split all of the proceeds and share those out with families. So another great partnership. Mm-hmm.
And then Mr. Irvin?
Just a general comment, going back almost to the beginning of the meeting, I'm really pleased with the civics education grant and the fact that there'll be some emphasis on that. That just personally to me has been a concern, not about Muncie, but about our country. I don't think young people get exposed to how our government works, how civics works, to rights, responsibilities, and duties we all have as citizens, and I'm really very pleased about that and excited that maybe we can take a leadership role in that. So,
Absolutely. Anything further?
September 7th.
September 7th.
September 17th?
17th.
September 17th is
Stuff a bus.
Stuff a Bus. I was going to say Pack a Bus.
Also Constitution Day for all you civics people.
Yeah. Constitution Day. Mr. Irvin will be there with a powdered wig, holding forth. October 7th is the Community Engagement Council golf outing.
And the 16th is our summit.
And September 16th is the Educational Summit. And I'm extraordinarily excited about seeing Jeffrey Canada.
Jeffrey Canada, 1 o'clock in the auditorium, and the public would be invited to join us.
Yes.
What day is that again?
September 16th, a Friday, I believe. Is that a Friday?
Yes.
Okay.
Moving forward, our summit will not be on the final count date. The State Board of Accounts doesn't like that. This year, it was too late. So we'll just have to address it again next year, but then we'll move the summit back probably a week.
Yeah, well, we do our best.
We do.
Anything else? Rhonda, how are things going for you? Good? Julie, what are you seeing?
I just wanted to tell you, I'm super excited about that civics grant. We met with David Rook yesterday, and I'm pumped about it. I want to grab it and just like do it. So, because I just think a lot of the stuff we already want to do, but it's just now getting it down to all the different levels because we want to do it in elementary all the way up through, so.
And I know that on September 20th, all these September dates, September 20th, it's National Voter Registration Day. So there's some community folks, YMCA, YWCA, MLK Dream Team, the League, nonpartisan, but also Muncie Community Schools will do some voter registration things in the schools, and then there'll be this event on the, hopefully, on the parking lot, right? So they need Ms. Snyder.
So, one of the things, and Mr. Irvin, alluded to it just a bit, when we think about civic responsibility, and this is lost at all different levels, sadly, it appears to be a bit of a diminishing skill, and that is dispute resolution in a manner that is not violent, that's not insulting, that's not a burning of a bridge. And I think when we look at how we resolve disputes in this country, I am deeply concerned that component of the rule of law, which is at its base a peaceable resolution of fundamental disputes, is being sacrificed for the benefit of a news clip on the evening news, or worse, some misplaced notion of stature within one's community. And we see it all the time, and social media certainly has contributed to that cancer on our society. And people are getting hurt, killed, and our social fabric is being tattered at its seams because that skill is either disappearing or being neglected. And unfortunately, it's being neglected at the most significant levels of government and leadership, and it has been for a while. So I would, urge whatever you're doing to spend a little time on the civil resolution of disputes and pointing out that Alexander Hamilton kind of screwed that up. We don't duel. And I tell people all the time that we have millions of years of dispute resolution, which was brutal and violent. And then the Enlightenment occurred. And we've had about 300 years of doing better with it, but it feels like to me that, at least in the United States and probably worldwide, we're in a phase right now where the peaceable and responsible resolution of disputes is being lost, and it's got to be recovered. So that's my soapbox for the moment to deal with, and I suppose it's because I live in that world every day, and it's frustrating. So, anything further at all? Entertain a motion to adjourn. I want to note that I really, really like Chuck's bow tie this evening, and I'm sorry he's not on camera.
Mark and I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna give.
And are you going to get socks that coordinate
I know,
also?
one
I mean, look at those striped socks.
I'm lucky if I can tell black from blue.
Well, you know how I know Mr. Heater's working on retirement? No socks, baby.
Oh. Sorry.
You gotta have fun. Okay. With that, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Anything further? We'll stand adjourned. I'll move it and second it.
Executive privilege.